What is it like being a Nigerian in Jamaica? Hi, I'm Xavier Murphy, the founder of Jamaicans.com, and today I speak to Ugochukwu Durueke, a Nigerian living in Jamaica. Hi, Ugochukwu, how are you? And hopefully I didn't butcher your name too much.
Yeah. Hi, Xavier Murphy. All right. You tried. You tried to get the names right.
so so I have my own Nigerian name. When I visited Nigeria, they gave me a name, Omowale. And they said it means the son has come home. So it was really interesting, the conversations we had because I did my African DNA testing, and North Nigeria, Cameroon was one of the places that came up. And so when I got there, they said, "Okay, you've come home. You've come home, Omowale." Oh boy! So talk to me. Where in Nigeria are you from?
All right. I'm from a state called Imo State, which is in the southeast of Nigeria. Um, the capital is Owerri, and my hometown is called Mbieri.
Okay, tell us a little bit about your hometown.
My hometown specifically, the village is Omonjam. It is suburban. It has electricity. It has, to a great extent, water supply pipe. And then I understand now the road is asphalted, and okay to drive on. However, it has a touch of the rural, some farmland and some wooded areas. So it's really suburban.
Okay.
Mm.
Now tell us some of your fond memories as a child growing up in Nigeria.
There are so many, but I just have to recall and present some. I remember as a child, myself, my peers had to go out and run trying to catch grasshopper. There's a particular type of insect we call grasshopper. We had to climb trees, as what boys did, and we also had to engage in art and craft, using the Nigerian um, palm tree, the leaves, the branches, the leaves to make broom, with which we swept our rooms and our surroundings, even at school. And some of us learned um, basketry, how to make baskets out of the same material. We also hunted down squirrel and rabbits, at the
Mm.
same time we were going to school. So it was really fun growing up in those days.
All right.
Mm.
So how did you uh, end up living in Jamaica?
All right. My response here will be two-dimensional. First, the time that I left Nigeria was a time when Nigeria was going through some serious political problems. There was a very oppressive and authoritarian military regime in place, and human rights were abused and stuff like those. So conditions were not, conducive and good. So I felt frustrated, so I left at that point in time. Secondly, I should say that it was ordained by God for me to be in Jamaica because even my parents did not give me their blessings,
Mm.
while when I was about to depart. They said I was living at my own risk. They wanted me to stay home, but I had to move on. So I came to Jamaica. I got to know Jesus Christ as personal Lord and Savior, became a pastor, evangelist, a teacher, and some other things, doing here to impact lives.
Nice, nice. So, how much did you know about Jamaica before you left Nigeria to come to Jamaica?
All right, interesting. Very good question. When I was in the University of Calabar, Cross River State, Nigeria, in my final year, the students were required to do what was called graduating essay. So for some reason, I don't know, I chose to study a Jamaican poet called Claude McKay. You know,
Oh,
I read
Claude
his poem.
McKay.
I read his poem. I also read some of his novels, Harlem Renaissance and stuff like those. And I actually was, enthralled, and I was actually captured by the picture of Jamaica that, he presented. Very beautiful picture, the culture, the lush vegetation, and the Jamaican vibes. So it actually, arrested me. Secondly, in those days, when somebody mentioned the Caribbean or West Indies, the first name that came up or came to mind was Jamaica, then Trinidad, and then Barbados. So even before I left Nigeria, I knew about Jamaica. I heard the music of Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, Shaka Demos, and some other persons, from Jamaica, some other artists from Jamaica.
Wow.
Mm.
No, did you read Lovely Dainty Spanish Needle by Claude McKay?
No, we actually concentrated more on the poems because
Right.
I had to do a comparative
It,
study
it,
between Claude
right.
McKay and Wordsworth of the UK. So I had to compare,
It's
the two.
more, and I'm sorry, I said this wrong. It's a poem that he did. And
Mm,
so as a growing up in school, pretty
mm,
much back in my day, everyone
mm.
had to learn the poem, The Lovely Dainty Spanish Needle by Claude
Okay.
McKay. And you had to
Okay.
know it and recite it in school.
Oh, mm. Yeah, I love the poem that he wrote. If we must die, if we must
Hmm.
die, yeah, man, it's a very powerful, poem. Yeah.
So, what do you love about living in Jamaica?
All right. I love actually the camaraderie that exists here. I love the fact that there is a very functional, or there are functional social structures. Like you have the RGD, you have the SDC, and you have some other institutions that seek to the well-being of people here. Some of those things were missing in my days in Nigeria. There was this, some kind of dysfunctionalism, and things were in array, in disarray, sorry. But here I found that things, are kind of organized. But I think Nigeria has changed now, from my understanding.
Right.
Mm.
Now, what do you like the least about Jamaica?
All right. A number of things, I would have said hate. The homicide rate is here, rate here is high, for a small country. I wouldn't say that I like it. But I know violence is everywhere now. But if that could be arrested, I would appreciate it because it's a very beautiful country. And the next point is that Jamaica has a very beautiful, vibrant culture. But the thing is that there are those who denigrate that culture and actually pander to, and angle for the American culture rather than the Jamaican culture, which is beautiful. So I wish they will have that sense of racial and cultural pride that Marcus Garvey actually spoke so highly of.
So, I found this interesting. When I went to Nigeria, I remember driving through the market the first time I drove to the market there, and just watching, not knowing the language, but
Mm,
just watching how people express themselves with their hands. I could be in a Jamaican market,
mm,
basically, the way it felt in
mm,
Nigeria.
mm.
So, is that, I don't know if that's your experience. What was your experience when you kind of landed and you saw the environment and you saw things. What was that experience like? Did you find any similarities?
Yeah, there are some similarities. There are some similarities. For example, in the festive season, here people go out to do some shopping, and there's that fellowship. People, stand or sit and interact, talk, socialize. All right, for the festive season, it is not a one-day thing. That reminds me of Nigeria. We celebrate Christmas for a week plus. All right, the masquerade, the visits and the conviviality, dance and the enjoyment. So I find that similar to what happens in Jamaica.
Nice. No, a quick story. Sorrel. So, did you drink sorrel while you were back in Nigeria?
No, it was seen as a plant, but in my own tribe, it was not being used as, something for drinks. There are some things I see here that, we took for granted in Nigeria, but they are actually useful here, in terms of, human consumption. For example, the ackee now that is, consumed in Jamaica, back home is just a tree, all right? It was of no use, in my environment anyway, because Nigeria has so many different, cultures and so many different tribes. You understand? Some other tribes might have found it, edible and usable, but my own, tribe wasn't into using it, so, and then what is called breadfruit here also, I really like it, so back home, I never used to eat it, but it's something that is being consumed here now.
Nice, nice. So, a quick story. I had a friend. My daughter had a friend came by one Christmas. He's from Nigeria, and he was like, "Sorrel, we drink this. We drink sorrel," and he gulped down like 2 big glasses of the sorrel, and then he got a little woozy. He didn't realize. He didn't realize in Nigeria. He said they only sweeten it, sugar, whatever. There's no rum in there, and so he didn't realize we use the rum in our sorrel.
It's true.
So, in terms of culture, you talked a little bit about that. What is some of the places that you've visited in Jamaica and you're like, man, I really like these places. It's amazing.
Okay, interesting. I went on a school trip to Portland, very beautiful parish, the lush vegetation. I and other teachers climbed the Blue Mountain. We stayed there for a while, went down, visited the rivers. And I also have been to Dunn's River Fall. It's a very beautiful, tourist attraction. I've been to Negril, the white sandy beach, very long, and the sunset, just a very beautiful picture of, nature, or, picture painted by nature, actually very fascinating. Yeah, I've been to Hanover, Montego Bay, used to live in Kingston. I lived in Kingston for 6 months before I moved to St. Anne. I've been to a couple places in St. Anne. Yes.
Nice, nice. So you teach?
Yes, yeah, I'm a teacher at a secondary school.
Okay. And are the students, what's the questions they ask the most when they realize that you're Nigerian?
All right. A number of questions. One, they are actually captivated by my name. They try to pronounce it, they mutilate it, they do all kind of things to my name.
Guilty.
But I understand. Secondly, initially when I came, they asked me some questions that would maybe irritate some persons, but being who I am, I had to understand. They asked me if I had seen vehicles, if I had seen the light bulb, if I had, if we had motorbikes at home, and aeroplane and stuff like those. So I just had to enlighten them. I just had to tell them that actually there are places in Nigeria and some African countries that, would make New Kingston look like a ghetto, So, yeah, so, but I even asked my parents to send some pictures,
Right.
of my ancestral home to them. So that kind of enlightened them, a
Yeah.
little. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
in,
And
it's
then,
it's interesting you mentioned that
yeah.
because I remember traveling to a village, and what they called a village in Nigeria is a huge town.
Downtown. So yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, oh, it's a village. It's gonna be like a
Yeah.
small area. We were visiting a chief in the village,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this place was big buildings. I mean, and I'm like, this is not a village.
Yeah, it's true. True. Yeah.
So so you were saying the students, that's the questions they pretty much ask.
Yeah, and they also asked me if I learned to speak English here in Jamaica. So I told them that I learned that at home because the medium of instruction was and still is standard English, because Nigeria is a multi cultural entity, different tribes. So there are about 240 different tribes, possibly different languages. So but the national language is English language. So one had to learn it to communicate across, tribes and cultures. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So give me two of your favorite Jamaican foods.
All right. I love the yellow heart breadfruit with baked chicken. I also love curry chicken and rice.
All right.
Mm.
No, tell me one of an experience that was really funny for you as a Nigerian, and you're seeing it happen or play out in Jamaica, and you're like, man, this is really funny.
Hey man, one all right, let me just give you one because I have two in mind. One happened in Kingston, 1995, when I just came to Jamaica. I rented a so-called, furnished place. There was no refrigerator, no iron and stuff like those. However, the landlord said I could come to him to get, ice, to make my drinks. Because I was living in the what they call boys' quarters, where he was up front. So this particular day now, the place was very hot, extremely hot. I had my igloo. I was tired to go down the road. However, the landlord had a daughter called Sophia. So Sophia was by the gate, skipping. And I was at the boys' quarters on the outside. So I called Sophia. I said, Sophia. She turned to me, looked. I beckoned her on the way that we did it in Nigeria by doing this. And she responded by doing this also. So I called her again and tried to beckon her on doing this. And she responded like this. I was frustrated. So something within me said to me, Wilson, you need to change your approach. You're not in Nigeria. Why don't you call her and then not do it this way? So I called her name and then now beckoned her on this way. And she responded. I was saying, oh my God, I could have gotten the eyes before now. I could have gotten the eyes. I was here dehydrating, so I learned that when you do this in Jamaica, it's just like saying bye-bye. But in
Right.
Nigeria, you just come on, So you have to do this in Jamaica. So.
I learned something. I learned something new today. Ugo, Ugochukwu, I learned something new today.
Yes, yes.
So, when you visited? Have you gone back to Nigeria since you left?
Yeah, yes, I have, but it's been a long time. I went back exactly 3 years that I came to Jamaica. I came 1995, and 1998 I went back home and spent a month. But since then I've not been back home. So it's about roughly 24 years now since I've not been back
Okay.
home.
No, I don't know if you visit other places, but when you leave Jamaica, what do you miss about Jamaica when you leave?
All right. I've been to Canada, I've been to the US and to the UK anyway. The thing that I would miss most if I were to leave Jamaica would be the fellowship and camaraderie of friends here that I have here, church, friends and social friends. And the fact that, in Jamaica, you have persons who are caring. For example, if somebody is ill and falls on the road, the tendency is for Jamaicans to rally around, get some rubbing alcohol, try to resuscitate the individual, give a helping hand. My understanding is that in developed countries, people will just pass by the victim. So I really miss that.
Okay. Now, Ugochukwu, I hope I'm not butchering the name again, but I'm trying. I really appreciate you spending some time telling us about your journey. What advice would you give to someone who is an expat thinking of moving to Jamaica?
My advice would be the individual should not isolate himself or herself when he or she arrives. The person needs to become expansive, needs to socialize, needs to reach out to people so as to impact lives positively and make a mark here.
All right. Good words of advice.
Yeah.
Ugochukwu, I appreciate you and thank you, my brother, for spending some time with us. Now, last one. What is an expression, Jamaican expression, that you just absolutely love?
When Jamaicans say, yeah, man, because that has become a part of my linguistics now, yeah, man. Even when I went back to Nigeria and people were talking to me, I say, yeah, man, they say you have become Jamaicanized, so yeah, man, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to say Ugochukwu, little more.
Yeah, little more.
And yeah, man.
Yeah, little more, right? Yeah.
Show us some love now. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a video.